All right, have another lesson notes coming to you. And we're going to start with the video on the left here. So just in general, these would be the lines that I would draw to evaluate how the club's moving and then how the body's moving. So as we start with the video on the left, what I want you to notice right off the bat is how much the club head works outside the hands. And we can also see that the face is pretty shut. We can tell it's shut because the face is kind of facing the ground. Most likely that's going to go left. And the player's complaint heading into the session was that he was hitting a lot of left balls and that he was also hitting quite a few toe balls. And so we'll get to kind of why that's happening. What I want you to notice is, and I'm going to jump to the top here, when you get in this position here, so we would call this laid off, and we know that it's laid off because the club is pointing kind of over here, way right of target. And the problem with that is that on the downswing, we're going to see a really heavy steepening. You can see the shaft is flat, and it starts to steepen. And as he's doing that, you can see his head is starting to back away from that initial wall that he was set up on. But if we go back to this first parallel position, let me clean this up. What's going to happen from here is you're going to see the shaft steepen for a second as it's trying to kind of get behind the player. You're not going to keep the club head out here for that long. So it starts to get really flat. This is a very, very normal movement of someone who takes the club head really out. So it's kind of a generic thing. Like if someone takes it that far out, they're probably going to be laid off at the top. And so from here, if someone's trying to hit a draw, a lot of things have to happen. I would say it's going to be very, very difficult for a majority of players. So as this player is coming into the session, we've been working on hitting a draw. This position is not going to work very well. I do want you to notice how the head pulls away. And so that's going to cause the toe. You can see he doesn't have a ton of early extension, but he definitely has a lot of space growing between where he started with his head. And that's going to steepen the shaft because his body is going to kind of stand up a little bit. And those two things are going to cause too much space, and he will probably toe it. And you can kind of see the head kind of stays away for quite a long time. We can see the face and the follow through looks closed. And so when I'm evaluating this, I'm thinking, what's the one domino that I can push down that's going to fix a lot of things? So immediately I start thinking about drills. And so if we jump over to the video on the right, what we're going to see is I have a drill where I have some sticks on the ground. You can see these two sticks. And I put also a golf ball, you can kind of see that right here, as a visual, because at the end of the day, I want the player to have a very, very easy drill they can do when they leave. And so this is about as easy as it gets. I cued him to roll that ball down this stick channel, and I was betting that if he did that, that the backswing would change dramatically. And so let's go through that. You can see, so the first part is, he's keeping the club head much lower to the ground, and now the club head, it's still a little bit shut, not near as shut, but it's now inside the hands. So from here, the club is going to have a much easier time just like moving up and hopefully getting a little bit across because he's been so laid off. So let's kind of see what happens. Yeah, so we can see now the shaft is steep relative to that blue line. And as he gets to the top of the backswing, we can definitely see a huge difference in like how the club is. It's not a great line. Let me draw that again. Yeah, so now he's actually steep. If we were to go back to this other one, you can see there's the difference in those two positions. So that's drastic. There's some other things that look a little bit different, but in general, I was really just looking for the shaft to be in a much different spot. You can see it shallows a little bit on the downswing, but nothing like it was. Now, from there, because his shaft is more in line and the shaft doesn't have much steepening in it, you can see his head doesn't back out near as much through the shot. And so what we started to see was the toe go away, and actually a little bit of heel started to show up. And we'll deal with that as we go along if that continues to be the problem. But so if we go back to that lead domino idea, I was betting that if I could change the backswing, that the downswing would look a lot different and it would be more automatic with what we were trying to see. And the club path shifted and the angle of attack shifted a little bit shallower. And so if you are someone who really struggles with this outside move or being laid off, what I would encourage you to do is, one, check where you are at this position in the backswing. If you are here, then I want you to do this very, very simple drill where you roll this ball inside, and we would be looking for something like that. Is it okay that the club head's slightly in? Of course it's okay it's slightly in. And oh, by the way, it's totally fine that the club head on the video on the left is a little bit out. The problem with that is that he is getting laid off in this position. It's not that this is a problem, it's that it doesn't fit well with the type of shot he's trying to hit. Because when we get the club laid off, it's just going to be hard to hit the draw. So 1, check that position, and then 2, from here, this position here should be happening pretty naturally if the club is in the right spot early in the backswing. If it's not and you're still laid off, then you may just need to feel like you're pointing the club a little bit more this way. And then lastly, doing drills like this, we'll call this like the ball stick channel, where I'm rolling the ball down the stick channel, is going to be very effective versus you just trying to do it. Trying to do something like that internally is not near as successful as doing something external like roll the ball down. This was one swing. This video on the right was one swing. It did not take us an hour. It took us about 5 minutes to fix this. And then we moved on to something else. So that's the other thing, is when you're changing your swing, it doesn't need to take thousands upon thousands of golf balls for the most part. If you get into something very, very complicated, maybe it does. But in this case, I knew that if we fixed this early part of the backswing, that everything would kind of fall into place. And that early extension to a degree would go away. Not the early extension, the head shifting away would go away. And that the draw would come. So I encourage you to make things as simple as possible. But at the end of the day, the video needs to look different. If the video doesn't look different, then there really isn't any change and nothing's going to be different. And you should start to see the ball flight and the symptoms that you had change. In this case, he was seeing toes and pulls. Now he's seeing high rights with occasional heel. That's actually a good sign. That's what we'd want. So I appreciate you watching. Again, hit that subscribe button and drop me a comment if you found this video helpful.